and welcome to this lecture. So this lecture and a couple of lecture will be the long series of the lectures on how to make the Mario game from the Python. So let's get started. So first just click this file, new project, and just name it as something like Mario game, and let me say it is Mario game and create now. So yes, I would like to open in the current window, click OK and let it load now. So after successfully loading of our Mario game, you will get window like this, and go to this file again and this setting. Onto this setting you will get this window now like this, and in this project and colon and your game name, that is your project name, go to this project interpreter, and in this interpreter just go in here, that is a selection of this project interpreter, and make sure you select this python.exe now. So that should be python.exe, which will be this inside this C program file, and this is basically the directory where you have installed your python.exe. So let's click that and it should load you some package here. So all other will be the optional package for us, but the two thing that we really need here is pygame module, and this will be really important, and the next will be CX freeze, and this will basically do something like converting our Python file into .exe, that is executable, so that you can run on this window platform. So the one that is compulsory is pygame, so make sure you have installed this pygame, and if you haven't installed, just go to this plus sign and you can just search for this pygame again, and in this pygame you should get something, this pygame, and go here down, and in this you have something that is install package and manage this package repository. So make sure you click this installed, and just when you just install it and just apply and click OK. So after you have successfully installed, and you can just go here in this project file or project directory, and let's create another directory here, and let me say that should be state directory. So this state directory will keep the track of all the state of our game. So let me create a new Python file inside this, and let me say level 1 here. So this will be our level 1 directory, that is level 1 file, which will basically load our level 1 of our basically Mario game. So let's import some of the module, and that would be pygame. Obviously we need pygame in order to set the window, work with the window, and I'll say as pg, import pygame as pg, and from, and before starting this code in this level1.py, I want to make another, that is Python file here, and let me just see that should be outside this state. Just make sure you click this Mario game project and create new Python file, and that should be constant. So this will just contain all the constant that we need for our game. So instead of just writing constant manually, and there will be the bunch of a constant, and it will just be a waste of a time for you and for mine too. So instead of that, I have this already defined code here that will be useful for our constants to work with the constant, and this is basically to avoid the hard work and obviously the hard coding of our game, of our basically these values. And instead of hard coding, we'll just make use of these constants, and just copy now, Control C, and you can just paste it in this Control V, just do it Control V in this constant.py, and obviously you can grab this file from this constant file, and just make sure you check that resource section, and that will be the container which you can get this file. So we have now constant.py, so let's close that for now. And in this level 1, now first we'll just say from something that is dot here, so 2 dot here, and from 2 dot let me just import constant here and is C. So this 2 dot is basically going outside of this state directory, and it will just search for this constant and it will just import that constant as C. So before working on this main method, or main basically this level 1.py, we have to create one more Python file, so that should be outside this state, and let's create that new and Python file. And this Python file will be something that is tools.py. So this tools.py is really important class, because we have to deal here with the many functions that will be like controlling the class of our entire game, and it will be also containing our main loop and also event loop, which basically passes event to the state, and also the logic for flipping state also. So a bunch of things has to be included in this tools.py. So let's do that first. So first what we're gonna do is we'll just import OS, and this will basically for loading our file or loading our media. So we haven't now imported the sprite or the resources in our Mario game, so firstly let's do that now. So you can see we have here resource folder, and you can just grab it from the resource section, and here we have a font and we have a graphics that will be important for our enemies and obviously the Mario. So you can just go here and check this sprite in order to see our Mario, and you can see here that we have this bunch of our Mario character, and we'll just make use of this, and we'll just crop some slice of this Mario sprite, and that will be our character of the game. So let's firstly import that. So let's copy that resources and just paste it in our project folder. So after you copied here, you could see we have font, we have graphics. You can go to this graphics and check for these enemies, and similarly for the item objects and so on. So we have now loaded our constants and the resources. So let's go back to our tools.py here, which is the important class, and now we have to import pygame here. So let me see, import pygame as pg, and let's make the key binding. So that will be the key that the user can press, and in order to make the user play, we'll just create a dictionary here, and the key will just define a key as in here action. So this should be an action, and action be something that is here pg dot key. Let me see, it should be action should be when the user press yes. Similarly, let's make another key here, and that would be jump. So which key will basically make the player jump is key, and we are calling from this pygame dot and k, that is for key, and let me say it should be q. Okay, q is for the jump. And the next thing, okay, instead of q, so q will be basically for the quit. So let me say a is for the jump, and next thing what you can do is left. So which key will be for left? Obviously the left key, that should be k left, and now it's time to have this right and down after that. So let me say pg dot k right, and the last one will be down. So down will be from the key down, so that would be key and down. So we have covered all of the actions for our player in this key binding. Now next thing what you can do here is we'll just create a control class here. So we'll just pass as an object. And now in this class control, basically it will control our entire game, and it has also the main loop and also the event handling states, and also it contains the event loop which passes the event to the state, and will also implement the logic for the flipping state. So let's do that. So firstly what we're going to have is obviously the initializer, and let me say just pass a caption here for our game which will be called from the main, and let me just define a screen for this current object, and that would be initialized as pg, that is our pygame. And display, we have display dot get surface, so it will just get the surface, means it will get our screen height and width. And now self dot done would be here false, it is a default value for basically for done. So after that what you're going to do next is self dot give the clock, so clock will be initialized as clock pg dot, it should be time first, and inside this time we have clock function. And next thing is caption, let me say caption for our game will be here caption, that is passed when calling this control class, and the frame per second, and let's define the frame per second and give its default value as 60 frame per second. And self dots, now so we have to define another variable, that is so for frame per second should be false, that means just done so this frame per second. So after that the define the current time, and this current time would be initially 0.0. and next thing what you can define is keys. So key is basically when the user press that key, so that can be defined as pg dot get, that is basically get pg dot key and dot get pressed. So after that what you can define is a dictionary now, so that would be like self dot state dictionary, so it will just maintain the dictionary, that will be something like, let me just firstly define this isness dict, and this the dictionary will maintain all our state, so that can be level 1 state or a pause state or exit state, so all that will be defined in this state dictionary. And after that let's define the state name, so state name will be office, that is default is none, and the state, now the last will be state, and that is self dot state will be none, which is default value here. So let me just give over here space now, and again the next thing what you can do here is after this initializer, now we'll just define the setup state function. So let's define that, this should be setup and state, let me say setup state function states, let me say states, and obviously it will, the first argument will be the self, and second will be the state dictionary, that is basically maintaining this dictionary where you have a key and the identifier for each state. So after that we'll say start state, so this will just contain this start state, and we'll just say that is initialize, that is basically our state dictionary from this state dictionary. And similarly we'll just get this initializer for our state name, so let's say it should be state name, and this state name you can see it was none here, should be initialized as start state now. So after that we'll say self dot state, so this is to define the state now. So the state will be something that is self, so we'll just reference from this dictionary now, that is state dictionary, and we'll just say that should be this state dictionary, so just take this reference, and you have to call through the key now, so key should be state name, that is basically start state, so that would be self dot, and that should be state name here. So now we have a reference for this state. So next thing what we can do is we'll just define another function that will be update function. Let me say update here, and the first parameter will be self, and we'll only pass the self here, that is a current object, and we'll say self dot current time. So current time should be now the ticks of the clock. That means we'll just define pg.time.getTicks. So after that we'll say if the state is quit state. That means we'll check if the state self.state, and if the self.state.quit, if it is quit, if the state is quit state, then we'll say self.done. So we are done with the game, just exit out of the game. Next thing will be done, that is just check if the self.state and if it is done, then what you can do is we'll just flip the state. Just we'll call self dot something, that is the, we'll just create some function here. So that function will be flip state. For now we don't have created this flip state function yet, and we'll create now. But before that, so this flip state is basically in order to persist basically, or in order to set the state, that is previous state. So this flip state is to just set the previous state. So now we have to just update. Now this should be updated from this function, and let me say update and give the screen, which is basically, you can see here we have a screen as the display.getSurface. So just pass its screen first, and after that the screen is passed. The next argument will be here keys, that will be keys, and similarly the current time, that should be self.keys. And now next will be dot, we have current time. So this should be updated from this update function. So next thing what you can create is this flip state function. So let's create that. So this flip state is basically to just set this state to the previous. So let me say flip state here, and let's define with an argument as an object, and let me create previous first, previous variable, and previous variable also I'll just create something that is state name. So this is state name, and just assign this previous and self.state name is, first will be self.the current state name should be in this previous now, and self dot the next state. So that means the state dot next, we have to have here next. So next state will be now something that is in this self dot state name. So after that what you can do is we'll just say persist, this is the variable, and this will basically clean up our state. So let's clean up now. So self dot state dot cleanup, and we'll just clean up, and these are the inbuilt function of the Pythons. And after that next thing what you can do is we'll just check for the state now. So that should be from this dictionary we maintain here, that is state dictionary. So this state should be now self dot state, and that should be here dict, and inside dict we have to just pass a key now. So key would be self dot state name, so current state name, and just get this state now. So this state should be something that is there on next state, so it should be achieved from this dictionary that maintains our state. And the next thing what you can do is we'll say now previous state, that is the self dot state dot, we have something that is, let me just create now state dot previous. This is basically a previous variable, and this previous should be now previous, that is this variable. So we have now flip our state. So basically we just created this previous and we just assign this current state to this previous and next state to the current state, and we just flip the state here. So after that we'll just say event loop, and this is really important, and this is basically the loop for our event. So in this event loop we'll just check for this event of our user. We'll say for event in pg.event.get, get the event of the user, and we'll check the type of the event now. So if the event dot type is equal pg.quit, if it is a quit statement, then what you can do is really you have to do something that is here, that is self. If it is the quit, then you'll just say done should be true, get me out of this game. And if it is not that quit, we'll just check for another key that will be from this elif. We'll say if the event and dot to get the type, and if the type is now, let me say pg, that is pygame dot key down. So we have this key down, and if the key down is pressed, now we have to say that is self dot keys and just get the key that is pressed. So basically we'll say pg dot key dot get pressed, and we have done this multiple time in our previous lectures. So after that we'll just toggle now. So this should be let's create another function to do that. So let's not to do here. So let me just create another function outside this event loop and just create that function as an toggle. So fps, that means in order to show the fps frame per second, and it will just take a self and a key here. So we'll check for that if the key is equal, let me give another key that would be something, let me say f5. okay, if the key is f5, then we have to do something that is self dot show. Now this show should be, now that is the show fps basically. So fps was initially here false, let me say it should be show fps was false. Now it should be not of that false, that means it should be true now here. And basically it will just toggle basically. If we have here show fps false, then it will just toggle as again the true, and if we have true, then it will toggle as in false. So if you click this f5, so I'll say show fps. So next thing you can do is we'll just check if this is not self dot show fps, just checking if it is true or not. Then we'll just set the caption here, that is pg dot display dot set caption, and just to keep the title, that is the title that we passed from this label. So that would be caption here, and we can go back to this key where we pressed, and we'll say self dot toggle show, that is this toggle show fps, and this is the basically calling this function, and we'll just pass here something that is event dot key. So event dot key will be basically assigned to this key which we passed from here. So after that, the next thing what you can do is we'll just check again, that is from elif, and we'll say if the event dot type is again key up. So we have checked for the key down, now it's time to check for the key up, and if it is key, that is, so it should be key and up here, so it should be key up, and if it is pressed, then we'll just get these keys now again. So keys will be pg dot key dot get pressed. This is basically getting the key which was pressed by the user, and after that we'll just set as an state and dot basically it should be get event. Now get the event, and you can pass your event. So this will be the wrap for this video. In the next lecture we'll make the main loop here, and this main loop will be the loop which will run for our entire program, and it is a really important loop. So see you in the next.